In the not-so-distant future, the world had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Technological advancements had reached unimaginable heights, and with them, new ideas and controversial theories. One of the most ambitious projects humanity had ever embarked on was underway. A global scientific experiment that promised to unlock the deepest secrets of human DNA. Scientists had long been obsessed with uncovering the flaws hidden within our genetic code, hoping to find weaknesses that could be used to manipulate and improve humanity. But what they didn't expect was that in searching for these weaknesses, they would unlock something far more powerful than they could have ever imagined. Dr. Samuel Kane, the lead scientist in charge of the human DNA testing project, sat at his desk in the sterile, cold laboratory, staring intently at the glowing screen in front of him. The lab was one of the most advanced in the world, a place where the boundaries of science were pushed every single day. Rows of servers hummed in the background, processing terabytes of data. The walls were lined with racks of test tubes, each containing carefully prepared samples from thousands of volunteers. Dr. Kane had been working on this project for years. The premise was simple: scan human DNA for weaknesses and use that information to create a new generation of humans capable of surviving in the harshest environments. What they hoped to find were genetic flaws, weaknesses that could be targeted and eliminated to produce a stronger, more resilient species. It seemed like a noble cause, a way to improve humanity's future. But deep down, Dr. Kane couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a dangerous line, one they might not be able to turn back from. He clicked a few buttons on his keyboard, bringing up the most recent results. His eyes widened as he read the data on the screen. The sample was from a volunteer who had undergone the most intensive DNA modification process yet, and the results were unexpected. Instead of revealing the usual markers for disease or genetic disorders, the test revealed something completely out of the ordinary. There, buried deep within the human genome, was a sequence unlike any they had seen before, something powerful, almost alien in its complexity. It was unlike anything Dr. Kane had ever expected. The sequence wasn't a flaw. It was a hidden strength, a dormant power encrypted deep within human DNA. A potential weapon, one that had been lying dormant for centuries, perhaps millennia. The power of humanity itself was encoded in their very genetic makeup, but it had been buried under layers of normalcy, waiting for someone to uncover it. How is this possible? Dr. Kane muttered to himself as he scanned the data again, unable to believe his own eyes. This wasn't just a discovery, it was a breakthrough. But it was also a mystery. If this hidden strength had been there all along, why hadn't it been unlocked before? And what did it mean? Just then, Dr. Laura Mitchell, the project's geneticist, walked into the lab. She was a brilliant scientist, highly respected in her field, but she was also a bit of a wild card. While Dr. Kane had always approached their research with a methodical, almost cautious demeanor, Laura was more daring, always willing to take risks and push the boundaries of science. "What are you working on, Samuel?" she asked, her voice tinged with curiosity. She glanced at the screen, her sharp eyes immediately narrowing as she saw the unusual sequence. "I don't know," Dr. Kane replied, rubbing his temple. "This wasn't supposed to happen. We were looking for weaknesses in human DNA, genetic flaws we could fix to make people stronger, healthier. But what I found here, this isn't a weakness at all. It's something else entirely, something that could change everything." Laura took a step closer to the screen, her expression growing more serious. "What exactly are you seeing?" Dr. Kane hesitated before responding. "It's like a genetic blueprint for power, something hidden deep inside human DNA. It's not something we could have expected to find. The implications are huge. If we can figure out how to unlock it, humanity could possess strength beyond anything we've ever imagined." Laura's eyes widened in shock. "Are you saying that this is something humans already have? Like a weapon? But how could we have missed it all this time?" "I don't know," Dr. Kane replied, his voice low. "But we need to explore this further. This could be humanity's last chance. If we're able to unlock this hidden power, we might be able to survive the coming storm. Dr. Laura wasn't convinced. What storm, Samuel? Dr. Kane looked at her gravely. The world is on the brink of collapse. Wars are brewing, resources are dwindling, and the environment is falling apart. We're on the edge of extinction. The people who control this knowledge will have ultimate power over the future of humanity. Laura frowned. And you want us to uncover it first? I don't know if we have a choice, Dr. Kane said. If this power is out there, we have to understand it before someone else does. It could be the key to survival, but we have to be careful. If this gets into the wrong hands, it could be catastrophic. Laura crossed her arms, deep in thought. So, what's the next step? We need to test more samples. We need to understand how this genetic power works, where it comes from, and how we can activate it. This could be the breakthrough that saves humanity, or the downfall of everything we know. The next few days were a blur. Dr. Kane and Dr. Laura worked tirelessly, poring over every detail of the newly discovered sequence. They ran test after test, carefully analyzing the genetic markers, searching for any clues that might explain what they were dealing with. But the more they uncovered, the more questions arose. The power encoded in human DNA wasn't just physical, it was something much more. It was a mental and emotional strength, a connection to the deepest part of human nature. It was something that transcended the physical form, something that could tap into the very essence of humanity's survival instincts. But as they delved deeper, they began to realize something else. This discovery wasn't going unnoticed. Their work was being watched. It started with small anomalies, strange glitches in their system, unexplained interruptions in their data. At first, they thought it was just technical issues, but as the days went on, the disturbances became more frequent. It was as if someone, or something, was actively interfering with their research. One night, as Dr. Kane was reviewing the latest results, he noticed something strange. The power in the lab flickered, and for a split second, the screens went black. When they came back on, the data had been altered. Someone had accessed their files. Someone who didn't want them to uncover the truth. Dr. Laura, Dr. Kane shouted. Someone's tampering with our work. We need to secure the data, now. Laura rushed into the room, her eyes filled with alarm. What's going on? It's not just the data, Dr. Kane said, his voice filled with urgency. This isn't just a random act of hacking. Someone knows what we found. They know about the power inside human DNA, and they're trying to stop us from unlocking it. Laura's heart skipped a beat. Who could it be? What do they want with it? I don't know, Dr. Kane replied. But we need to be careful. This discovery is bigger than we thought. Someone is willing to go to great lengths to keep it hidden. And if they find out what we're really dealing with, we might not make it out of here alive. As the tension built and the mystery deepened, Dr. Kane and Dr. Laura realized they were no longer just scientists conducting an experiment. They had uncovered something much more dangerous than they ever imagined. And now, they were being hunted. With every passing moment, the danger intensified. The organization that had funded their research, the one with the resources to control the future, was now the greatest threat to their survival. The power inside human DNA had the potential to change the course of history. But would it be used for good, or would it be locked away forever? The battle for humanity's future had just begun, and it was about to get a lot more complicated. The following days were filled with urgency and fear. Dr. Samuel Kane and Dr. Laura Mitchell had uncovered something that no one was meant to know, a hidden, unimaginable power encoded deep within human DNA. What had started as a routine genetic test to find flaws in humanity had instead revealed the key to their survival, or perhaps their doom. But the discovery came with a cost. Someone, or something, was watching them, and the subtle interference in their research had only confirmed their worst fear. They weren't the only ones who knew. After the data breach, the tension in the lab was suffocating. Dr. Kane paced nervously, his eyes scanning the monitors that now displayed encrypted lines of code, impossible to decode without the proper key. Laura had done her best to secure the data, but she was no fool. They were up against more than just rogue hackers. They were up against powerful forces that would stop at nothing to control what they had found. The discovery was no longer theirs alone. It was bigger than any of them had anticipated, and now, the stakes were higher than ever. "Samuel," Laura said quietly, interrupting his thoughts. She stepped closer, her voice almost a whisper. "Do you think they'll come for us?" Dr. Kane stopped pacing and met her gaze. His face, usually calm and controlled, now reflected the deepening worry that had begun to take root. "I think they're already here," he replied, his voice low. "Whoever they are, they know what we've uncovered. And if they think it will give them power, they'll do whatever it takes to get it." Laura nodded, her expression darkening. "We can't let them take it. We need to move fast, before it's too late." The gravity of the situation weighed heavily on both scientists. The genetic code they had uncovered wasn't just a blueprint for human survival. It was a weapon. The DNA contained dormant traits that, when unlocked, could give humans the strength to survive the most extreme environments, regenerate damaged cells, and even access abilities that defied the known limits of the human body. In short, they had stumbled upon the ultimate human weapon, and its potential for both good and evil was enormous. But as they worked to understand how this genetic power worked, they realized something else. They weren't the only ones searching for it. The organization funding their research, known only as the Syndicate, had its eyes on the prize. A shadowy, faceless group with far-reaching influence, the Syndicate had been pulling the strings from the very beginning. Their motives were unclear, but their desire for control was undeniable. And now, they were coming to collect. That night, the lab's security system went down. A soft beep echoed through the hallway, signaling that the backup systems had failed. Dr. Kane's heart skipped a beat as he glanced at the door's lock, which had also turned red. Something was wrong. He exchanged a quick, apprehensive glance with Laura before they both sprang into action. "Get to the backup servers," Dr. Kane said urgently. "We need to back everything up before they get in." Laura was already moving toward the terminal. "I'm on it. You cover the exits. We're not alone here." But before Dr. Kane could reach the door, a loud, sudden crash echoed from the hallway. The glass windows rattled, and the lab's dim lights flickered. Someone was trying to break in. Laura's hands flew over the terminal. She knew they didn't have much time. If they couldn't get the data stored securely, everything they had worked for would be lost. The Syndicate was closing in, and they wouldn't hesitate to destroy anyone who stood in their way. "I've almost got it," Laura said, her fingers trembling as they typed faster. But the sound of footsteps growing louder in the corridor made her freeze. There was no more time. Suddenly, the door burst open, and several armed men stormed in. They were clad in black, their faces covered by dark visors. The air in the room turned tense, and the light from the monitors reflected off their guns, casting an eerie glow across their faces. The leader, a tall figure with a cold, calculating expression, stepped forward. His voice was calm, but there was no mistaking the threat in his words. "Dr. Kane, Dr. Mitchell," he said smoothly, "you've made an impressive discovery, but I'm afraid it's no longer yours to protect. The Syndicate has interest in your research, and you will surrender it now." Dr. Kane's pulse quickened, but he maintained a steady gaze. "We've done nothing wrong. This research is for the betterment of humanity. You're making a mistake." The man's lips curled into a small, humorless smile. "Mistakes? Perhaps. But the mistake was yours for not understanding that power is not given. It's taken. And now, we're here to take what is ours." Before Dr. Kane could respond, the men moved swiftly, surrounding them. One of them grabbed Laura by the arm and shoved her toward the wall. The other kept a gun trained on Dr. Kane. "You have no choice," the leader continued. "The Syndicate has already secured the rights to this research. You are now merely assets in a larger plan. Dr. Kane's mind raced. They had to act. Now. He couldn't allow the syndicate to gain control of this power. He had to protect the knowledge, not just for himself and Laura, but for the future of humanity. The weapon they had unlocked in human DNA could change the course of history, for better or worse. And the syndicate didn't deserve to wield it. Just then, a thought struck him. A dangerous one, but it was their only chance. "Stop," he shouted, raising his hands. "Before you take us, before you take the research, let us show you something. Something you need to see." The leader paused, his eyebrow raised in curiosity. "What are you talking about?" Dr. Kane's mind was already working. The knowledge they had uncovered could be used for good, to fight back against the forces that were trying to exploit it. But first, they had to buy themselves time. They had to make the syndicate think they still had something valuable. "What if I told you that the DNA you're after has more to it than just power? What if I told you it has the ability to make anyone who activates it stronger than any soldier, any weapon you've ever known?" He said, his voice calm but laced with a sense of urgency. Laura shot him a confused glance, but Dr. Kane continued, hoping the ruse would work. "You think you can control it, but it's not so simple. It has to be unlocked. And if you rush it, you'll lose control. I can help you, but you need to trust me." The leader studied him for a moment, then motioned to his men. "Let them show us. But remember, any funny business, and we won't hesitate to end you both." Dr. Kane and Laura were led into a separate room, where the men kept their weapons trained on them as they activated the lab's most advanced equipment. They connected the testing machines to a sample of human DNA, one they knew would reveal the potential hidden power. As the machinery hummed to life, Dr. Kane spoke quietly to Laura. "This is our chance. We need to figure out how to activate it, how to use this power before the syndicate can. If we can show them the potential, maybe we can turn the tables." Laura nodded, her mind working just as fast as his. "We don't have much time. Let's do it." The machines beeped and hummed, analyzing the sequence. The samples glowed on the monitors as the code was revealed, a complex matrix of dormant potential. They were on the verge of unlocking the power, but as they were about to do so, the leader stepped forward again, his voice cold. "You think you're in control," he said, his eyes narrowing. "You're just a pawn in this game. And now you'll show us what we want to see." The tension was thick in the air as the leader moved closer, unaware of the plan forming in Dr. Kane's mind. He had to act fast. The syndicate couldn't be allowed to control the power locked within human DNA. And as the tests continued to run, Dr. Kane realized that unlocking this hidden potential might not just change the course of the experiment. It could change the course of the entire world. The syndicate thought they were in control, but the truth was, they were about to awaken something far more dangerous than they could ever imagine. The cold, sterile room hummed with the sound of advanced technology. Dr. Samuel Kane sat at the center of the laboratory, his fingers poised over a terminal that displayed the data he had worked so hard to uncover. The machines were all connected to the human DNA samples, the very genetic code that had the potential to change everything. Humanity's future, the balance of power in the world, and even the survival of their species. But he couldn't ignore the chilling truth that had been building up around them. The syndicate was closing in on them, and the power hidden in humanity's DNA was not something they could control. Dr. Laura Mitchell stood next to him, her face pale, eyes tired but resolute. She hadn't slept in days, her mind racing with the implications of everything they had discovered. The syndicate's operatives were everywhere, watching them, tracking their every move. They had already been forced into hiding multiple times, each time just managing to slip away by the skin of their teeth. "We can't keep running, Samuel," Laura said quietly, her voice low but determined. "The syndicate is too powerful. They'll never stop coming after us." Dr. Kane nodded grimly. "I know, but we can't let them get what we've uncovered." The power that's buried inside human DNA. It's more than just a weapon. It's a force that could change the entire world. If it falls into the wrong hands, it could destroy us all. Laura glanced at the screen. But we don't even know what we've really uncovered, do we? We've seen the data, but it's incomplete. We need to understand what it means before it's too late. Dr. Kane ran a hand through his hair. That's what I've been trying to figure out. There's something hidden within the human genome that's more than just the sum of our genes. It's like a dormant system, a blueprint for something greater than what we currently understand as humanity. It could be our salvation, or it could be our doom. Laura frowned. How can we even begin to unlock it? We've tried every method, and we're still not sure what it actually is. Dr. Kane turned to face her. That's the part I'm starting to understand. The truth is that what we've uncovered isn't just a weapon. It's a key to unlocking humanity's greatest potential, something that's been hidden inside us all along. But we need to activate it, and we need to figure out how before the syndicate does. It was late into the night when the breakthrough finally came. The lab was quiet except for the hum of the machines, the only light coming from the flickering screens that displayed encrypted genetic sequences. Dr. Kane leaned over a console, running a new set of algorithms. Laura watched, eyes wide, as the sequences began to shift, revealing new patterns. It's working, Dr. Kane muttered under his breath, his voice filled with awe. We're unlocking it, Laura. We're unlocking the power. The screens blinked as the data began to flow. But then something unexpected happened. The machines started to beep frantically. The encrypted sequence began to twist and warp. The power they had been searching for was suddenly more than they could handle. It was no longer just a piece of information on a screen. It was alive. It was moving, shifting, almost as though it were reacting to them. Laura stepped back. What's happening? This wasn't part of the plan. Dr. Kane's face turned pale as he watched the data unfold. This isn't just a code. This is a map, a guide to something much bigger. We've stumbled upon something ancient, something far beyond our understanding. Before he could process what was happening, a voice echoed from the shadows of the lab. That's right. Dr. Kane and Laura spun around in shock, their hearts racing. Standing in the doorway was a figure they both knew, Dr. Adrian Voss, a former colleague of Dr. Kane's and the man responsible for introducing him to the syndicate. Dr. Voss had always been the mysterious, charismatic leader in their field, but now, as he stepped into the light, his face was hard, his eyes filled with cold purpose. You're not the first to find it, Samuel, Dr. Voss said, his voice calm but menacing. But you might be the first to understand its true potential. Laura stepped forward, her fists clenched. What do you mean, Adrian? What is this power? What's hidden inside our DNA? Dr. Voss smiled, a cruel twist of his lips. It's more than you can imagine. The syndicate isn't just interested in weaponizing humanity's potential. We're preparing for something far greater than the simple wars you've seen. We're preparing to transcend human limitations. This power is the key to evolution itself. The DNA we've uncovered, it's not just a weapon. It's the first step in humanity's ascension. Dr. Kane's heart skipped a beat. Ascension? What are you talking about? Dr. Voss' eyes gleamed with a mix of madness and brilliance. We've been working on this for years. The power hidden in human DNA was put there intentionally by the ancient species who seeded life on this planet. You've always believed that evolution was random. But what you're seeing now is proof that we were designed for something much more. Laura's mind was racing. Are you saying we've been manipulated? That someone, or something, engineered human DNA? Exactly, Dr. Voss said, stepping closer to the console. The syndicate has known about this for years, but we've kept it hidden. And now, with your discovery, we can finally take the next step in human evolution. The power within us, if activated correctly, will grant us the strength and abilities we need to ascend, physically, mentally, and even spiritually. Dr. Kane felt a cold chill running down his spine. But the power, it's not ready. It's not safe. It will be, Dr. Voss said coldly. And we'll make it ready. The syndicate will lead the way, and we will finally rule this world as we were meant to. The truth was now clear. Dr. Kane and Laura had unlocked something far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. The hidden power within human DNA was not just a weapon. It was a transformation, a gateway to something far greater than humanity had ever experienced. But it wasn't a gift. It was a curse, one that would change everything. Dr. Voss' ambitions were clear, and the syndicate's plan had unfolded before them. They weren't interested in saving humanity or protecting the world. They wanted to harness the power of evolution itself, to create a new breed of humanity, one that could rule the planet with supreme strength and intelligence. And they were willing to destroy anyone who stood in their way. "We can't let this happen," Laura said, her voice filled with determination. "If we let them control this power, they'll become unstoppable." Dr. Kane looked at her, his face filled with resolve. "We have to stop them. We've unlocked the power, but we need to keep it from falling into the wrong hands. The syndicate wants to use it to dominate the world, but we can use it to set humanity free." They exchanged a look, one that spoke of their shared understanding and the immense responsibility they now carried. They weren't just protecting a discovery anymore. They were protecting the future of humanity itself. As Dr. Voss and his men moved to take control of the data, Dr. Kane and Laura knew that they had one chance to stop the syndicate, and they couldn't afford to fail. The lab was still, save for the hum of the machines, the soft beeping of monitors, and the urgent footsteps of Dr. Samuel Kane and Dr. Laura Mitchell as they scrambled to salvage what was left of their discovery. They had learned the truth. The power within human DNA was not just a weapon, but the key to a future beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. And now, that power was about to be snatched from them by the syndicate, the shadowy organization that would use it to rule over the world. But Dr. Kane wasn't ready to let that happen. He couldn't. Not after everything they had fought for. Laura stood beside him, her face a mixture of exhaustion and determination. They had just barely escaped the syndicate's grasp, and now they had to make one final stand. The world was on the brink of a revolution, but it wasn't the syndicate's revolution. It was humanity's. "We can't let them use this power for their own gain," Laura said, her voice a low whisper. "We have to stop them. Samuel, we have no choice." Dr. Kane looked over the data once more. They had unlocked something truly extraordinary, a dormant ability hidden within the human genome, one that could elevate humanity to new heights, physically and mentally. But it wasn't meant to be controlled by one group of powerful individuals. It was meant to be shared, to be used to protect humanity, not dominate it. "We'll stop them," Dr. Kane said firmly, his hands trembling as he typed the final command to secure their data. "The syndicate thinks they can control it, but they're wrong. Humanity was never meant to be ruled. It's time we take control of our own destiny." As he pressed the final key, a surge of energy seemed to pulse through the lab. The screens flickered, and the system hummed louder, as if responding to the command they had just given it. The activation sequence had begun. Humanity's true potential was now within reach. Hours earlier, in a dark underground facility, Dr. Adrian Voss, the leader of the syndicate, sat behind a sleek desk, studying the data they had just acquired. His cold, calculating eyes scanned the screen as he watched the progress of the new DNA modification. His plan had been set in motion long ago, and with the data from Dr. Kane and Laura, it was finally time to begin the transformation. "Once we unlock this power," Dr. Voss muttered to himself, "the world will bow to us. No one will stand against us." The syndicate's agents were already preparing for the mass production of the modified human DNA. They had planned to introduce the new human race, one that would serve them, that would make them invincible. But they weren't prepared for what came next. Back in the lab, Dr. Kane and Laura quickly realized that they had just activated the gene modification process in all of humanity. The data they had unlocked wasn't just stored in the lab system, it was global. Every human on the planet had the potential to access this dormant power within their DNA. And now, the final stage of the sequence was set in motion. "This is it," Laura said, her eyes wide as she watched the screen flash with data. "We've done it. We've unleashed the power." Dr. Kane nodded, but his expression was tense. "The syndicate won't stop until they control it. We have to ensure this power is shared with everyone. No one can own it." The two of them quickly devised a plan. They couldn't allow the syndicate to take control, but at the same time, they couldn't let the power fall into the wrong hands again. If they wanted to ensure humanity's survival, they needed to make sure everyone had access to it. Dr. Kane turned to Laura. "We need to broadcast the sequence. We'll hack into global communication networks, release the data to the world. The syndicate won't be able to control it anymore." Laura hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Let's do it." Together, they worked quickly, using every trick they knew to infiltrate global systems. It wasn't easy, but the urgency pushed them forward. The syndicate's grip on the world was tightening, and they couldn't afford to waste time. The clock was ticking. Meanwhile, Dr. Voss received a report from his agents in the field. They had just discovered what Dr. Kane and Laura had done. "What do you mean, they'd broadcasted it?" Dr. Voss asked, his voice growing colder with each word. "How could they get past our systems?" "We don't know, sir," the agent responded, sounding shaken. "But the data is out there. It's being spread across the globe. People are already starting to access it." Dr. Voss slammed his fist onto the desk, his mind racing. The syndicate's plans were unraveling faster than he could control. "Stop them. Find them. I want Dr. Kane and Dr. Mitchell alive. But if they resist, eliminate them." As the data spread across the world, people began to feel a strange shift. At first, it was subtle. A rush of energy, a sudden surge of strength, an overwhelming clarity. The dormant genes hidden within humanity's DNA were now activated. Some felt it immediately, while others only began to notice over time. But the results were undeniable. Humanity was changing. Across cities, streets, and villages, people began to demonstrate new capabilities. Ordinary men and women, people who had once been powerless, now exhibited remarkable abilities. Some could move faster than humanly possible, others had increased strength, and some began to exhibit extraordinary mental clarity and problem-solving abilities. The power that had once been hidden was now accessible to all. And with this newfound power, the people of the world began to rise up. In cities across the globe, protests began. But these weren't the usual protests for political change. They were protests for freedom, for empowerment. The world's population, once divided and controlled, was now united by a single purpose: to reclaim their future. The syndicate's control over the world's systems was rapidly crumbling. The people weren't just fighting for freedom. They were fighting for the right to choose their own destiny. The age-old system of oppression, of powerful few controlling the many, was coming to an end. Dr. Kane and Laura watched from their lab as the events unfolded. The chaos of revolution was sweeping the globe. People were awakening to their true potential, and there was no stopping it now. The data they had released had triggered a revolution, but this was one that came from within. The revolution of human potential. "Samuel," Laura said softly, her eyes on the screen. "We've done it. We've given them the power they deserve." Dr. Kane nodded, but his mind was still racing. "We've given them the power, yes. But now we have to make sure they use it wisely. We can't let it slip into the wrong hands again. The syndicate will try to seize it, but we need to ensure that it's used for the right reasons." Laura smiled, her eyes filled with hope. "We'll make sure of it, together." The final showdown came in the heart of the syndicate's headquarters, a towering structure that had once been a symbol of control. But now, it was the last bastion of a failing empire. Dr. Voss and his men, desperate to regain control of the genetic power, made their final move. They stormed the building, ready to use everything at their disposal to crush the growing rebellion. But the people who had risen against them were not the same. They were no longer weak, oppressed individuals. They were powerful, unified, and ready to fight for their freedom. As the syndicate's forces descended upon them, the people of the world fought back with everything they had, using the very powers that Dr. Kane and Laura had unlocked within them. In the final moments, Dr. Kane and Laura stood at the center of it all. They had given humanity the keys to its own future, but now they had to ensure that future was secure. The fight was not over. It had only just begun. The world was in chaos, but it was a chaos that was driven by hope, by the belief that humanity could shape its own destiny. The syndicate had fallen, but the true battle was just beginning. A battle for the future, for the right to control the power that now lay in the hands of every human being. Humanity had struck back, and it would never be the same again.